Hey guys, welcome to or back to my booktube channel. Today I'm going to be going through all the books that I read in the month of June. I read 6 books in the month of June, which was pretty good considering that for the last month and a half, I felt like I was in a little bit of a reading slump, and I felt like I really got my groove back this month and was just reading good book after good book after good book. So that was very exciting. The first book that I read this month is The Sirens by Amelia Hart. She wrote the book Wayward, which I read last year and really loved, so I had high expectations going into this. I rated this one 5 stars as well. Not to give away too much in this book, but it is a sort of similar concept to Wayward, where there are these multiple timelines and the characters are all connected by this common thread. And there's sort of this mystery element to it of them trying to just sort of figure out what has happened in the past and how it's related to what's happening in the present day. And there's this sort of motif and theme of revenge happening in it. So I really did enjoy this. This was, there's some pretty heavy topics covered in this as well. So I would say go look up the trigger warnings for this book before you pick it up. It is not a lighthearted story by any means. The next book that I read this month was a pretty widely anticipated release for a lot of people, including myself, and that is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I had never read anything by this author. I know a lot of people love her One Dark Window series. I have never read that, but I still went ahead and picked this up, and I really did enjoy it. I loved the writing style of it, and I loved how, whimsical and fantastic it was at the same time of being this really beautiful fantasy romance book. I loved the side characters in this book. Normally, if a book has a sort of side third wheel type character that is sort of just silly and goofy and just there for comedic relief, I don't like it. I think that they just sort of take away from everything else going on. But in this case, I really did enjoy that character in this book. I loved the sort of quick one-liners that they had, and I loved that character's storyline and that character's backstory and the way that it sort of weaved its way into the greater plot of the book overall. I also felt like a lot of the elements to this story were unique, even though the sort of general plot line of this main character has to go on this journey and defeat, the 6 trials, basically. I thought the elements within that overarching storyline were unique, and the magic system was unique, and it was just sort of like a refreshing fantasy story to read, in my opinion. Overall, I really did enjoy this. I gave this one 4 stars. Next up, I have Dream Girl Drama by Tessa Bailey. This one has been on my shelf for a while to read, and I finally just sat down and read it. And once I started reading it, it was a really easy read, breezed right through it. This is a classic Tessa Bailey book, in my opinion. At this point, I know what I expect from her. I got what I expected. And this one especially intrigued me because our 2 main characters here, Sig and Chloe, their parents are getting married, and so they're going to end up being step-siblings, and I was really curious to see how Tessa was going to write herself out of this one. And I'll be honest, I spent the whole time reading trying to think of how she was going to do it, and probably the most obvious one never even occurred to me. And in the sort of Big Shots series that this is a part of, so Fangirl Down, The Au Pair Affair, and Dream Girl Drama, this was my second favorite. I did not really enjoy The Au Pair Affair. I was not a huge fan of the characters and the conflict that they had in it. I thought this one was sort of more well-rounded, and I enjoyed the general plotline and character development in this one a lot better. So I gave this one 4 stars as well. After that, I read Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I had heard that this was different from Emily's other novels. This is definitely more novel than rom-com. So if you're used to People We Meet on Vacation or Funny Story from Emily Henry, this is a lot different from that. I loved it. I loved the subtle shift away from a pure rom-com from this. You have sort of the romance and love story happening between Hayden and Alice, the two main characters, but they're both competing for the same job of trying to write this memoir for this woman. And as a part of that, you have a story within the story of learning about the figure that they are interviewing. It had similar vibes to some of Taylor Jenkins Reid's works, especially, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or Daisy Jones and the Six. But I thought Emily's was a lot more well done. I have read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six, and while I enjoyed Evelyn Hugo, I was not the biggest Daisy Jones fan, and I have not really read anything since from Taylor Jenkins Reid. But with that being said, I think if you are a Taylor Jenkins Reid's fan and you've never read anything from Emily Henry, you should definitely pick this one up. And if you are an Emily Henry fan, go into this knowing that is a little bit different, but it's still amazing. I gave this one 5 stars. It still has all the classic Emily Henry elements of, the classic banter and the love story and everything like that, but it just had a little bit more to it, and I loved every minute of it. I'd have to probably sit down and reread, like Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, but this is probably up there competing for my favorite Emily Henry book at this point in time. It was just that well written. I've truly loved every minute of it. Next up, I have This Fatal Kiss by Alicia Jensinka. This had been sitting on my shelf for a while. I had noticed it being put out on a lot of Pride Month reading lists, and so I decided to pull it off and read it for the month. This was just a fun read. It was very whimsical. I loved reading about our main female character as a water nymph and just her storyline and everything that she's trying to accomplish and overcome. This book has such a diverse cast of characters. I can see why it's on so many Pride Month lists that I saw. I did not know a lot about this going into it. I just happened to have it on my shelf, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. I did thoroughly enjoy it. I don't know if it's marketed as a YA novel, but I would definitely classify it as a YA novel. Overall, this was just fun. I think that's kind of the best way to say it, is that I just had fun reading this, and I gave it 4 stars. And then finally, while I'm not 100% completely done with it, I think I am going to be finishing it tonight, and that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This was another highly anticipated release, and another one where I never read anything by V.E. Schwab. I know she wrote The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I know people loved it, but I never read that one. So this was sort of my introduction into V.E. Schwab, and I gotta say, I love this book. I have probably about 100 pages left in this, and I can already tell it's going to be a 5-star read. It's going to be up there for one of my favorites of the year. I know I'm not the first person to say this, but her writing has such a way to just transport you into the story and just make you feel really immersed in the world that she's writing around. And I just love going along for the ride and figuring out where it's going next. There's multiple points of view. This book spans centuries, basically, and it's so well written. It's so beautiful. I love the characters, and seeing the sort of threads that are tying them all together, and the things that make them the way that they are and the way that they change over time. I have also been reading a lot of vampire, I'm going to call this one gothic, sort of romantasy type books lately, and they've all just been really good. I feel like there was a period of time over the last couple months that vampires are sort of making a little bit of a comeback, and everything that I've read so far has been just so good. This sort of whimsical, gothic, dark, fantasy, romantasy type genre has really been intriguing me lately, and I've had the most fun reading it. I've really been enjoying this, and I'm super excited to see how it ends. So yeah, that's everything that I read in the month of June. Overall, really good reading month. I don't think anything was below 4 stars. There were a couple 5-star reads in there, a couple reads that are going to be top of the list when I look back and pick my favorites from the year. Overall, just really happy with my reading month. It's making me excited to go to my bookshelf behind me and pull out reads for the month of July, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. I'm hoping that it's going to be another really good reading month. So yeah, that's everything for this one. Let me know what your favorite book was that you read in the month of June, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!